All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Difficult Conversations by Supply the Why. I'm Dean. I'll be your conversational tour guide this evening. We're here with a very special gentleman, a guy who gave me one of my first chances to be on a podcast. This is Officer Dale Peters, and he has a podcast called Black and Blue, and that's going to be actually going to be what we're talking about tonight, about some of the challenges that face us as black men in that happen to be police officers. Dale, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing, fam?
Man, I'm just excited to be able to reciprocate and pay it back to you the way you gave me that opportunity way back when.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. As we're here to support each other.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Black and Blue. Tell us a little bit about where you police and what that's like out that way.
Absolutely, man. So, my name is Dale. Like Dean said, I am a police officer out in Southern California. I've been out here policing for like over 20 years now. And what got me involved in law enforcement to begin with, right after high school, I'm going to show my age here, was was the Rodney King incident and everything that happened around that. We had I'm sure you guys all heard the story of the young lady that was in the liquor store, and then she got shot for just stealing, shoplifting a jar of juice. So all that happened around the same time, and that's when the riots popped off. And then after that, the officers got no conviction for that. And then I just remember I wasn't in law enforcement at the time, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. We need some more faces like us up in this profession. So then that's when I started my journey. I went to college first, and then after college, I got into the profession. So fast forward years later, back in 2019, 2020, that's when a lot more stuff like George Floyd and all that started popping off. And I decided, really, I wanted to get the faces of us out there, just to let people know that, hey, we got some skin in this game. We got some. We want what's going on out there to be stopped and ceased, just like everybody else. We want equality in the policing. We want transparency. We want all that too, but we also have to take stake in that as well. So I wanted to show people, hey, first of all, we're human, right? We like the same things that you do. I like rap music. You and I were talking about some music that you were playing off air there. We like that stuff. We like movies. Some of us, we're all different. So, and mostly what you see when you think of police is what you think of, male whites, but we're not a monolith. We're male blacks, we're male Asians, we're gay, we're lesbian, we're trans, we're Middle Eastern. So I just wanted to show all that. So that's really the focus of Black and Blue, is to show minorities in law enforcement. But I've got Caucasians that come on the show as well. Those that exemplify and celebrate that diversity in U.S. law enforcement as well. So that's where I come from. That's where I'm at, and I help to keep that going forward. So that's why I had you on the show once, and other officers as well, and I'm happy to be on your show.
That's what's up. And just what's been said, let's not forget about our sisters out there too, that are out there. Our
Yes.
black sisters, our white sisters, like you said, our lesbian sisters, all in between that are out there, also standing shoulder to shoulder with us, trying to do what is becoming an increasingly more difficult job by the minute. It seems like
It is today, yeah.
So let me ask you, Dale. So you brought up Rodney King. Did you always want to be in this line of work, or is it something that just gets sparked in you when the Rodney King event happened? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, I wasn't necessarily thinking I wanted to be in law enforcement. I didn't have any animosity towards police officers back then, but I was really geared towards journalism at the time. Like I said, right after I got out of high school, went into college, thinking I was going to study journalism, and then something kind of sparked in me where I wanted to kind of take the role in the law enforcement. A couple of buddies of mine started going in that route, so I would go on ride-alongs with them. I say, this is a pretty cool profession. But then, like I said, when Rodney King jumped off, that's when I really thought, hey, I need to be a part of this, be a part of the solution, not just be a part of the problem. So then that's when I really started going hard and to taking a look at a couple criminal justice classes that I could take in college, getting some more knowledge under my belt before I actually took that dive into law enforcement. But like I said in the beginning and in high school and all that, I wasn't really thinking of law enforcement. But hey, roads take you different routes, and this is where I'm at today.
And I hear you on that. A little bit about my journeys. Those of you that have followed Supply the Y for quite some time, you've heard this before. I'll say it again. I never wanted to be a cop. Never wanted to be a cop. I was the furthest thing from my mind when I was in high school. Rodney King. I'm not afraid. I'll divulge my age. I was in high school when Rodney King happened.
Yeah.
It kind of blew my mind. I had a healthy fear of police. I grew up in an area where I was one of the few, and I was afraid of cops. I was like how a lot of kids are today. That was me, and I thought that I was just. It wasn't a matter of if Rodney King was going to happen. It was a matter of when. When's my turn going to come?
Right.
And I had that kind of a very very thick fear of police officers. Then fast forward into college, I had a few folks out here, both black and white, try to crip me along and say, "Hey, listen, you should consider a career in law enforcement. You're fair minded. You're this. You're that. You're in good shape. You could pass all the physical stuff." This was again many years ago when I could do all that, and I just it just never appealed to me. I was kind of like, why would I want to join that? I don't want to be a part of people that do that. It wasn't until I became I was late in my 20s when I got into law enforcement, and I got into it for all the wrong reasons. I needed steady pay and benefits, and that's basically what I got into it for. But then once I got into it, though, Dale, and I saw the people that were I was meeting and the people that really needed us, I my mindset turned into more of what you were talking about. Whereas people need an advocate, they need somebody who looks like them that they can talk to, somebody they can relate to. Um, and I just got addicted and I stayed. But I definitely did not grow up wanting to be in this line of work.
Yeah. I hear you. Because like I said, I didn't really have any animosity towards police. I knew there were some a-hole officers out there that I came in contact with when I was in high school. But on the other hand, there were a couple good ones. I remember when I was in high school. The school resource officer was a real good dude, and everybody loved this guy. And he was a white guy. And years later, he kind of took me under his wing as well. And I used him as references when I started applying for police departments as well. So, I saw both sides of that spectrum as well. So I'm not going to say I got into this profession to be all altruistic and, I wanted to help everybody. Like I said, I had a couple buddies get into the profession and I went on some ride-alongs and I thought, hey, this is cool. You get to drive fast cars and, drive cars fast and, get out and run and chase people, back when I used to do that as well. But,
way back.
Yeah, so when you're in your 20s, that's really what you're trying to get into. So I didn't really. I mean, we all needed a job, but I wasn't into it for the benefits and all that because I didn't have a family at the time. But like I said, as I got into the profession and started seeing from the inside what I could do as far as in the black community and black and brown community, because I grew up around a lot of Latinos as well. What we could do, what I could do to help that situation out with their relationships with law enforcement, I really gravitated towards that.
So moving on from that, talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced when you were first coming on to what we're seeing now. I'm sure you can agree, 20 plus years in the profession, it's a completely different job nowadays. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, everything is different. We got technology on our side or against us, or whichever way you want to look at that. But things that were kind of accepted back when you and I first came up aren't accepted now. How you could treat trainees for once is totally different today. And yeah, I guess you can call us old heads where, when we say, oh, well, back in our day, we could do this, that, and the other, but it's not like that anymore. And one of those things is how you talk to people when you're out there on the street. And yeah, so you can't talk to people like you used to back in the day because for one, everyone's got a cell phone, everyone's recording themselves, and for one, of course you should be respectful anyway, right? So, but nowadays, I would at least in my experience, agencies take that to heart and they will let you know, hey, you got a complaint against you, you need to clean this up. Things are just different from where they were back in when I first started coming up. So you could say is it for the better? I would say so. But like I said, just even how how we interact with one another on the job. I know we got the duty to intercede is a big topic now.
Which is a good one. It's a
Which
good
is
thing.
it's a good thing. But
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, this is some duty to intercede isn't a big thing because it's something that we've always done. At least people that I've come in contact with. It's just as simple as, hey, brother, I got this. If you see your partner going a little bit heavy handed, you can step in, but that doesn't get reported by the media. Why? Because there's no story to report. What are you going to report? Officer stopped another officer from doing something. That's not going to get reported. So, what gets reported is the egregious stuff that is sensationalized. So, it is
Well,
what it is.
well, Dale, let me ask you this. So Heidi has a question, uh, and it's a very good question. How did your family react to your decision to get into law enforcement?
Well, I'm an only child and was brought up by my mother, and so my father wasn't in the picture. So of course, my mother, being her only son, her only baby, she wasn't too happy. Not just because it's a black thing, and I'm gonna go join the man, even though she did come up in the '60s and she was part of the Black Power movement and all that. She was really afraid for her son. I will say that the others in my family, we have healthy debates about it when we go to family reunions or Thanksgiving dinners and things like that. But nothing where people are like, "Hey, I'm not gonna be your family anymore. I'm not gonna speak to you anymore." But like I said, we have those healthy debates. Friends, like I said, I had buddies that entered this profession, and I'm pretty big on my social media, so I got a bunch of my friends that look at that, my family that look at that, and I give them a different perspective where they can kind of look at it and say, okay, this is where these guys are coming from.
So I'm going to answer the same question. I can tell you right now, my parents weren't excited about it. I was fortunate enough; I had both my parents around, so I was able to get perspective from my mother and my father. And my father had some difficult, much like you. My parents were. My mother's watching. Let's just say that she was living a
Keep it
good life
clean.
in the
Keep it clean.
'60s. She was living a good life in the '60s, and my father was out there, and they weren't too keen on the idea.
No.
Obviously there's the danger aspect. There is, I think maybe more so my father. There was a little bit of that whole aspect of being part of the machine that
Right.
that a lot of people had. Some things happened to my father that were definitely unjust, and I think that played a role in his view in me wanting to do this job. I can also say, to your point about the healthy debates, probably one of the most regretful things that's happened in my adult life was right around the time when the Ferguson incident happened.
Okay.
Thanksgiving, my father and I got into an argument at the Thanksgiving table over Ferguson,
Mm.
and it was just where I was trying to tell him, like, listen, some time has passed. There was a big investigation, that happened under the President Obama's administration, and the Department of Justice really, figured
Yeah.
out that a lot of what was reported didn't really happen the way it was reported. And I think that it kind of triggered something in my father where he wasn't even talking about Michael Brown anymore. He was talking about what had happened to him when he was younger. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what the emotion of that kind of spurred a really unfortunate argument between my father and I. Obviously, we kissed and made up and everything, but it just shows the type of emotion that goes through the black community and how they
Oh yeah.
view the police.
Oh
So I
yeah.
just figured I'd share that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, my mom came up and hey, Patricia, thank you for joining us. Welcome as well. Like I said, my mom came up in the '60s during the Black Power movement, and she was heavy into that. And she had me at a young age, so she wasn't too keen on it. But like I said, it was mostly because, hey, I'm her only son, and this is a dangerous profession, and yeah.
So, yeah. So with that said, Michael says, I attended some training last week and learned a new slogan, particularly related to minorities, called GEM, which is an acronym that stands for Good Enough Mainstream Minority. Have either of
Huh.
you felt like you were a gem during any point in your law enforcement careers? And if so, can you share your thoughts? So, what do you think, Dale? Dale, are you a gem? Are you just good enough mainstream minority, or what?
Man, that's it's. I've never even heard that term before, Jim, huh? Yeah, you know what? Sometimes I think that coming up along my years, that maybe I was one of those gyms that I wasn't too hood, too street, because my mom didn't play that, and then but on the other hand, I'm that one. I'm a minority. I'm black. Hey, he's got some college education. I wouldn't say I was the token, but I would say that hey, he's safe. He's safe, but I put on that role until I got on the inside, and then hey, maybe he's not so safe after all. But no, I wouldn't call myself a gym. I never heard that term before. Yeah,
So I'll answer the same question. I wouldn't call myself a gem, but I think that some folks probably viewed me that way. Growing up, I didn't get into much trouble. On the grand scheme of things, I did some stupid things like all kids do, but I wasn't
yeah,
a troublemaker per
yeah.
se. I was always fairly well spoken, and I was really about sports, and that kind of ruled my world. So maybe to some people, and I heard things when I was coming up because I grew up in a mostly white town where hey, Dean's all right, or he's really well spoken, that kind of all those things that
Yeah,
it
all
might
those
not
code
even
words.
right, but it might not even have been meant that way. But that's how some of these people viewed me. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's I don't think it was. I don't think in all cases it was intentional. I'm sure it was in some, but yeah, I would say that gem thing. It's on point for some folks that do this job, and and are able to maintain this job. The professionalism it takes to do this job. You might be seen as a gem. So that's a
Yeah, man,
great
it's a
great point.
double edged sword. It's a double edged sword being, and we're gonna talk about that. That's part of the topics on my show. Is being black and blue, right? Is being, black, and we get all the things and all the struggles that come with that. Because when we take off this uniform, when we rolling down the street, people don't know that we're officers. An officer doesn't know that we're an officer. So there's been those times when you get stopped, and you got to kind of let these people know, hey, I'm not the one to mess with, right? I'm talking about other officers, and so you got that double edged sword there that you got to deal with as being black and blue.
Well, to that point, let's talk about something that's not really talked about enough. I think, and that's how our own community views us as police officers. What
Yeah.
kind of reception do you get from the black community in where you police?
You know what? It's pretty positive, actually. Actually, I would say that it's because I'm real. I keep things 100. Right now, my assignment is a school resource officer, and I told you, like, one of those influence for me coming up was a school resource officer. So I get out there with the kids, and I let them know, yeah, I'm the same as you, right? So they're kind of standoffish at first, as you would assume
Hmm.
high schoolers are. I'm at a high school, and but when I get down and talk their language, because if you see all the stuff back here, you can see records and stuff like that. I'm a DJ, so I know all the music that they know, and I get
Hmm.
out there and I know all the TikToks and all that. So then we can kind of chop it up on their level, and they see, hey, I'm one of them too. I'm just like them. So the reception, even when I'm on patrol and I'm working investigations, whatever other assignment, it's been positive because they see me as an ally, not as an occupying force.
Now you're telling me it's always positive because I'm going to agree with you
Well,
and I'm going to disagree with you.
you're always going to have that one, but I'm going to say by and large,
Mhm.
it's been positive experience towards me. Now, you're always going to get the one that says, that calls you the N word, calls you to sell out or whatever, especially the ones that you're arresting, right? But, by and large, if I'm showing up at somebody's house, if I'm out there on the street, people at least, give you a nod or whatever, they don't want to come up and give me a hug or anything like that. But it's not overwhelmingly negative is all I got to say. And that's in my experience. And a lot of that maybe is just how you come off, right? If you come off in there thinking that, you the man, and your stuff don't stink and all that, if you're not humble about it, people see that. If you're not genuine, people see that. And then it's all about how they reciprocate to you. If you treat people with respect, I got people that I have arrested giving me commendations, called up the PD and said, "Hey, Officer Peters treated me with respect. He's not like the other officers that were out there that after I got arrested, they were yelling at me or taunting me or whatever." So I've had that experience as well, where people that I've actually arrested have given me commendations and given me compliments to my supervisors. So it's just on how you act.
All right, but no, that's fair. That's fair. Now, I have a little bit different spin where I actually thought about this the other day, Dale, and I kind of broke it up into different age brackets. So, let's say older folks, let's say 50 and up,
Yeah.
then middle, let's say 60 and up, middle age, which would be me, like 50
Yeah,
ish.
yeah. Hey, I'm the same age, brother. I'm
All
the same
right,
age.
all right.
Yeah.
And then we have young folks. All
Okay.
right, folks in 30 and under, and teens. So I'll do 4. And I would say the people that have been mistreated the most by police are definitely the oldest folks, because that was before cell phones. That was before any of that
Sure.
stuff. It was one of those. It was back in the day where somebody would come in to complain to a police station. They tell you to leave, or you get
Right.
beaten. All right, they treat me the best. It's crazy to think that the people that have the most skin in the game and have probably suffered the most at the hands of old school policing tactics and just straight out racism seem to be very welcoming to me.
Okay.
And I find that amazing, because again, if you look at the youngest folks, I would say in today's world, the youngest folks have had very few young folks have had really tumultuous things happen to them at the hands of the police. It's not like
Right.
it was years ago, because you can't hide anymore. There's cameras
Yeah.
everywhere, cell phones, all kinds of craziness. And I would say, by and
Yeah.
large, the police profession is more professional now than it's ever been.
Definitely. But let me tell you this though, man.
Please.
Again, like going back to what I was saying about how you treat someone else who you come in contact with, whether or not you're gonna put hands on them, you're gonna arrest them, what have you. Let's say gang members, for example. If you show them the respect that they think that they're due, I've never had a problem with a gang member. I will tell you that. And they out there doing dirt, killing, stealing, robbing, selling dope. They're doing all that, right? I've never had a problem with them, just because I give them their respect and I don't treat them, call them out their name, right? They may be thinking that about me, but no one has actually come out and said anything. No one's actually come out and, we've gotten into rough and tumble fights. I mean, it happens in this job, but if you treat it like, there's an old Bugs, not a Bugs Bunny, but a Looney Tunes cartoon. I don't know if you've seen this one before, but with the sheep and the coyote, and they go to work in the morning and they clock in. Hey George, hey Fred, right? And then they go out there and then they battle all day, right? And the sheepdog is just winning, right? And the coyote's all messed up at the end of the day, right? And they go at the end of the day, they clock out. See you tomorrow, Tom. See you tomorrow, George, right? If you treat it like that, where it's a job and you don't take it personal, and you give that adversary the respect that they think that they're due, then and you just live to fight another day. I think you get that back in return. So
I will agree with you. 95+% of the time, that's absolutely the case. You
yeah,
talk to people, you give people a voice. I mean, I've gone as far as to tell people, always want to play let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. Well, I mean, you don't got to lock me up, right? Well, that depends on what happened here. But the one thing I'm going to tell you is I'm going to be fair, regardless of how it shakes out. I'm going to be fair to you,
no doubt.
and that and most of the time that's enough. But every once in a while, that's not enough. And that again, that's regardless of race. But I will say this: it's disheartening sometimes, and I can provide context with a quick story of when I run into law-abiding folks that look like us, that have a complete disdain for law enforcement, and they can't separate people that are like us, that are trying. Like we're here to advocate
Yeah,
for them, for everybody. I advocate for anybody. If you're a law-abiding citizen, I am advocating for you, regardless of what color your skin is.
yeah.
And so much so, Dale, that I had an old friend of mine. I'm talking about somebody who I went to high school, somebody I grew up with, in my own house, calling law enforcement everything but a child of God, to the point where he got triggered. And I'm sitting there like,
You got to go.
right. Well, you know what? I didn't even do that. I said, well,
Okay.
what about me? Do you think that I mean, you've known me all these years. Do you think that I would
Yeah.
stand by and allow all these things to happen? And I invited this person and said, why don't you come on a ride along with me and see what it's really about? Get some answers that you so desperately need, whether you admit it or not. And it didn't go well. Like they just couldn't, this person just couldn't get past all of this stuff that was happening on the media. And here's the kicker. Same age as me. He's never had any of the stuff that's happened to me happen to him. Like I've been pulled out of a car as a passenger and had an officer kneeling on my neck. I've been pulled. I've been stopped when I've been walking with two white kids and had somebody proning me out on the ground. I'm laying face down while they're talking to my friends about the Red Sox. It's never happened to this gentleman. So I didn't understand where all his anger and vitriol was coming from. And I took a great deal of offense to that. Let's hit the chat real quick. So what do you say to people that call you a sellout for doing your job? Do you think you can ever change the mind of that person?
Do you think you could ever change the mind? It just, they got to be willing to change, but I'm willing to sit there and talk to them about it. If they call me a sellout for doing my job, hey, so be it. But I'm here to help you, and you, right? So, hey, let me do my job, and you can see what how that shakes out in the end. So, let's talk about it. I'm all about talk.
All right. So, staying with the sellout theme, how does people thinking or calling you a sellout affect your mental and emotional health, and how do you deal with it?
It's not fun, right? Nobody likes to be called out their name, regardless of what you're doing. If you work at McDonald's or you work at at Apple, right? Nobody likes to be called out of their name for just doing what they think is a noble profession. How I deal with it is, for one, I just put it out of my mind, right? Because I know that they're just chirping at me, for one, to get to me for whatever reason, and I just call it out of my mind. And then when I get home, when I get off of work, I do stuff like this. I do podcasts and I talk about it, and I let people see. I give people, hey, check out Black and Blue. See how myself and other officers across this country, how we feel about it, how we deal with it, how we talk about it, what we're thinking in our heads, and maybe if I can reach one person, hey, it's worth it to me. But in the meantime, like I said, I just go about my job on the daily. That's how I deal with it.
All right, fair enough. Dale, we're down to about just under 3 minutes left.
Oh, already, man?
Already, brother. Already.
Oh, man.
Really quick. Mike has something to say. Let me jump to Mike. See if you can sum this up in about 30 seconds. Then we're going to get to causes that are important to you. So some would say that there's no difference between being black and blue and being white and blue. If everyone treats people the same, does a police officer's skin color matter in policing, or does it matter more to the people in the community? So really quick, let's see if you can knock those out.
Well, there's no difference as far as me and my partner, right? If a bullet's coming down our way, it's going to hit either one of us, regardless of our color. But people like to see people in their community, that have authority in their community that look like them, right? So yeah, it does help. It does matter to be black in policing, or to be brown in policing, or what have you. So yeah, I think it does matter.
And I'm gonna double down on that. I agree, because I don't think, and again, I'm sure it happens somewhere, but I don't think that you have the same number of some of our white brothers and sisters that do this job that get the same kind of vitriol and the same kind of resistance from people that are close to them that we get as black officers. Yeah. I can tell you for a fact, I've had friends kind of walk sideways from me once they know I got into law enforcement. And that's fine. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a choice, and maybe they weren't real friends, but I don't see that happening as much with some of our white counterparts.
No, of course not. No, of course not.
And so that's where some of the differences come from, as far as I can see, Mike. So Dale, great question, Dale. In about 30 seconds, what's important to you? What cause are you working on? How can people follow you?
Man, you can find me everywhere. That's whether that's at the website, at IG, Facebook, everywhere, at Black and Blue US. So just search for me at Black and Blue US. And man, I'm just working on this podcast. I want to get you back on the live, and we do lives every other week. A coworker and I, we just had one yesterday, so you can check us out on YouTube and all that. And man, let's just keep it pushing. Let's keep this conversation going.
Yeah, this is a good one. It's one that needs to be had. I don't, like you and I talked about, I don't think enough people are talking about this and giving you the real. And that's what we're going to do here on Difficult Conversations regardless of if it ruffles a feather or not. It's something that needs to be said, and it has to be talked about.
24/7, 365.
All right. Well, Dale, I can't thank you enough for coming on, brother. I appreciate you. Folks, please like, share, and follow Supply the Y on all your favorite social media platforms. If you got anything out of this episode, if it spoke to you in any which way, please share this with all the people out there. You need to see these conversations. You need to be part of these conversations. So, Dale, thanks again for taking time away from your family. And as always, folks, #Supply the Y. Good night.